Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you haven't been here before, my name is Debbie and I read a lot of books. If you've been here before, you'll know that I'm at a slightly different angle today because I rearranged the room. Basically, I am getting antsy when it comes to my flat. Like, I'm at the point when I want to buy furniture, but we're not quite there yet. So at this point, the best thing for me was just to rearrange my room slightly. Anyway, so I'm going to talk to you about a play today because I was originally supposed to be seeing it tonight as I film this, but there's a couple of strange things happening with the rotor at work. Got messed around slightly. Basically, I ended up having Wednesday off, and so I was able to rearrange the ticket and also add an extra one on for like £12, amazingly. The seats that I dip on Wednesday night were cheaper than the one that I originally bought for tonight. So yeah. Anyway, the play is By Royal Appointment. This is a programme for it, starring Reid and Quentin as the Queen and her dresser, and this was so good. I'll be talking about this forever. This needs a West End transfer like yesterday. It's at this point, it's on at Leeds. It's fairly early on in the tour. I think it's only had a couple of other dates. I'm not completely sure when the tour officially started, but I want to say it was the beginning of June. And as I film this, it is the 27th of June. By the time you see this, you won't be able to see it at Leeds, but it is still on tour. So yeah, that is the programme for it. And I'll go through the cast for you. So you've got Reid as the Queen, Quentin as the dresser, James Dreyfus as the milliner, James Wilby as the designer, with Grainne Dromgoole as the curator. And then you've also got Fiona Tong as the footman and understudy for the Queen, the dresser and the curator, and Jerry Drakes as footman and understudy for the designer and the milliner. And yeah, it was written by Daisy Goodwin. Saw it in Leeds Grand, saw it in the stalls, which was, I think I've spoilt my mother for the stalls now, because normally we used to sit up. I think that's a good place to be for musicals, but for the play, it was just perfect, and I could see Quentin. Like, if you know me at all, you'll know I absolutely adore Quentin, so getting to see her on stage was like a dream come true. And it also reminded me that I've actually met Reid before, as I completely forgot that I was an extra on Last Tango in Halifax years ago. Yeah, so yeah, I did get to meet her briefly when I worked on Last Tango in Halifax, and I still can't believe I forgot that I was in it. How could you forget something like that? I've done a lot of extra work over the years, so there are some stuff that I'm just like, oh yeah, I did that, and I met that person. The programme has lots of information about the Queen and her fashion, which is kind of what the show is about, and her style. And then there's also a page where it shows some like rehearsal footage and things, which is always nice to see in a programme. I love seeing rehearsal footage. I'm very much a person that likes seeing stuff behind the scenes. But yeah, it's on the surface, it seems to be a story about looking at the Queen's fashion and style and how she communicated through her fashion and her style, which is a very big part of the play. But you're also looking at that relationship with her dresser and the fashion designer and the hat maker designer. Yeah, and there's a reason why the other parts aren't named, and it's because they're kind of looking at a few different people. It's obvious who the dresser is, who Quentin is playing. The dresser is Angela Kelly. In the show, she's called Gigi. At least that's what the Queen calls her anyway, Gigi. And yeah. So the dresser is based on Angela Kelly's relationship with the Queen as the dresser and how she was treated by the royal family after the Queen died. I mean, the show starts with the death of the Queen and the dresser turning up and finding that the locks have already been changed while she's been at the funeral. And then the curator turns up and says, we want to do an immersive thing about the Queen's style and fashion, and asks the dresser if she has any records, or if there's any record keeping on certain outfits throughout the Queen's reign, which then takes us back to, does it start in the late 60s, mid to late 60s, and then looks at certain staple outfits throughout her reign, coming up to the present and beyond, because the end of the show does actually finish with a statement from the curator saying 2026, Oasis have broken up. again. That brought such a good laugh from the audience. It was a really good night. Admittedly, it wasn't the busiest, at least in the stalls. I think higher up it might have been slightly busier for a Wednesday night. I feel like it was a very good audience. We all laughed in the right places. I think we were all crying in the right places. It's a very emotive show because, as I said, it's not just about the Queen's style and fashion. It was what she was going through at those moments. And I must admit, I mean, obviously I was there because I was very excited at the idea of being able to see Caroline Quentin on stage. I know my mum absolutely loved the show because my mum was there going, I remember all of this. And obviously I was born in '89, so I only really started to actually know more when it hit kind of like 80s, 90s area, with the references to Diana and then also some slight references to like Harry and Meghan, because the show does actually look at basically how Angela Kelly reacted to a tiara request from Meghan. There is a comment on that during the show. With some of the references, I think there were one or two groans from the audience. It was just like, oh, because we know what's coming. Yeah, it was so good. And I will say, whenever James Dreyfus and James Wilby were on stage together, you could tell that they get along. The chemistry between those two was just brilliant. They're so funny together. And then I also just love the relationship between Anne Reid and Caroline Quentin anyway, because they played mother and daughter on Life Begins years ago. I still have that the DVD set somewhere. I absolutely loved that TV show. It was on ITV. I'd always forgotten how long they'd known each other for. So yeah, the cast is absolutely excellent. I love Grainne Dromgoole as the curator, but there's also the fact that as it goes between the years and these staple outfits, that it is looking at the design process of and what the Queen was going through and any possible political statements she may have been trying to make with some of those outfits. The curator comes on to introduce each section, and she was just absolutely great at that kind of almost newsreader monotone thing of just saying, this is what happened. Like this year, whether it was who was on at the top of the pops or some big news event that happened that year, to, I remember there was one point when she said, and in this year, Posh Spice married David Beckham. It was just like all the different historical moments from that year, whether it was significant news stories or something in pop culture. It was all delivered in that same monotone voice, which just added to the comedy of those moments. But yeah, Grainne was absolutely incredible. The whole cast together just worked so well, and as I said, you know, this deserves a West End transfer yesterday at this point because it is so good. And the fact that I saw it early on in the tour as well, which it's a point where they're still kind of finding their footing a little bit, because I know that in the first half of the show there was a scene where they were struggling with the microphones a little bit, and Anne Reid's microphone went out completely. But fortunately, sitting in the stalls, I could still hear her. I can't talk for the back of the audience, but there was a point when her microphone went out, and then there was a point when Caroline Quentin's microphone went in and out, but I don't think it affected the Jameses, Dreyfus and Wilby. I wasn't aware of their microphones going out. It was the women whose microphones went out a little bit. That was the only slightly technical issue that they had, I think. Other than that, everything else seemed to go off without a hitch. And it's only there for a few days. Yeah, Tuesday to Saturday, the 24th to the 28th. It was a very short run, less than a week at Leeds. I don't know if there's any other places where it's going to be slightly longer, or if like the main idea is to be kind of just a week in each place, or just under a week. I had to talk about this show because it was so good. The fact that I did get to see Anne Reid and Caroline Quentin on stage together. And I'll admit, James Dreyfus and James Wilby, as I said, you know, I thought that they were incredible together on stage, but they give such incredible performances. And even though you know that Caroline Quentin is essentially playing Angela Kelly, with the milliner and the designer, there are nods to different milliners and different designers. My mum pretty much got who the designer was straight away. It's obvious that there's a lot based on Norman Hartnell, but at the same time, he passed away in 1979, but he's James Wilby as the designer is featured throughout the entire play. So even though you know the designer is heavily influenced on Norman Hartnell, but there's still references to other designers in there. and then James Dreyfus as the milliner, because it's the first thing that comes up if you Google Queen Elizabeth II's milliner. The most well-known one is Rachel Trevor Morgan, but the one that we're mainly looking at is Frederick Fox, the Australian milliner who designed hats for Elizabeth II and other members of the royal family for many years. So you're mainly looking at Frederick's relationship with the Queen. You also look at Frederick's personal life as well as a gay man and his relationship with his partner, which led to a very emotional scene where I was just like, someone just used to give him a hug. It was just completely fascinating, and I must admit, because there were so many jokes about the design process and the hats and the outfits that were coming out of them, because especially early on in the play there was a lot of turbans brought out, and I was just there going, she didn't wear any turbans, did she? And then you see the pictures at the end of the show of all these iconic outfits. It was just like, wow, she did wear turbans a lot at the beginning of this. I say at the beginning, it was just like, as I said, the play starts in like mid to late 60s. But yeah, I think even my mum, when I said that to my mum, she was just like, yeah, well, I was in the same kind of like head place of just thinking, she didn't wear turbans. And so, no, actually she did. She did wear turbans quite a lot kind of throughout the 60s and the 70s until the hat started to get bigger and things. It was incredible. It was so good. I'd love to see it again, to be honest. I'm not quite sure where else it's going on the tour. I'd have to have a look. But yeah, after Leeds, it's at Malvern Festival Theatres from July 1st to 5th, the Mayflower in Southampton from July 9th to 12th, Richmond Theatre in London from July 22nd to 26th. It's going to be in Guildford from July 29th to August 2nd, and there's going to be at the Lowry in Salford from August 5th to 9th. So yeah, it's having quite short runs. But yeah, if you're interested in the Queen's fashion, it'll be great. If you just like a good play, I recommend it. The cast is incredible, as I said. I feel like I need to shout more about Grainne Dromgoole as the curator, because she has so many good moments. And as I said, you know, she's a sort of comedy in introducing each section as they go into it. She had some quite good scenes with Caroline Quentin as the dresser. And I must admit, Caroline Quentin, the faces she pulls are just absolutely incredible when she's just like, oh, for goodness sake. Because I think it's because also the dresser had just such a close relationship with the Queen. She was there pretty much 24/7, so she knew the Queen inside out. And so where the designer was, you know, going off measurements and trying to like make this art piece essentially of the outfits, the dresser, Angela Kelly, was the one that was letting out the armpits slightly so that the Queen could actually raise her arm and wave. And Angela Kelly actually took over and was the designer for quite a portion of her career. This is stuff that I have learned from watching the show and also just researching stuff afterwards. Yeah, she was personal assistant and senior dresser from 1993 until the Queen died in 2022. Her official title was Personal Assistant, Advisor and Curator to Her Majesty the Queen, Jewellery, Insignias and Wardrobe. Yeah, it says she began working for the Queen after gaining employment as the Queen's dresser following an interview at Windsor Castle in '94. She was responsible for the Queen's clothes, jewellery and insignia, researching the venues for royal visits, as well as the significance of different colours in order to create appropriate outfits for the monarch. You do see that in the play of her saying, when the milliner and the designer turn up and just trying to like avoid making certain political statements. There's a whole thing about Brexit in regards to the blue outfit and the hat with the yellow on, and you've got Anne Reid as the Queen saying, well, some people believe this, other people believe this, and this will just confuse them even more. So we might as well just stick with what we've got here. But yeah, she also founded a fashion label called Kelly and Pordham with Alison Pordham, who was also employed as the Queen's in-house dressmaker until 2008. I'm guessing that was around about the time that Kelly did take over a little bit as designer. I can't stop talking about this. It was just so good, it was so clever, it was funny, it had its heartwarming moments, and everybody just had a chance to shine in this play, they really did. By royal appointment, if you do get the chance to see this show, I definitely recommend it. This cast needs to be in the West End. I'd love to see this cast in the West End, to be honest. And I got to see Caroline Quentin on stage. Oh, as I throw everything off my bed. yeah, I got to see Caroline Quentin on stage, and it was such a dream come true, and I was so glad when I noticed that I could, when I found out that I was allowed to film the bows. Standing ovation from me and my mum and quite a lot of people around us, so we don't know how big the standing ovation was behind us, but we were aware of the standing ovation happening on the in the stalls. Just chef's kiss. It was beautiful, it was great, and I am so glad that despite this, oh god, that's a big bee. The queen bee was just outside my window. That's what happens when I film in front of my window. I see everything. Despite some of the stress that's happened this week, I'm glad it worked out the way it has, because otherwise I wouldn't have seen the show with my mum. We had a G&T in the bar beforehand. We found a cute little bar where we just stood. There was a standing table at the back where we downed our gin before we went into the auditorium, and my mum was totally impressed with the seats that I managed to get. I mean, you'll see on my video of the bows just how close we were. It was brilliant. I loved it. So yeah, if you get a chance to see the show on tour, I definitely recommend it. So yeah, By Royal Appointment, written by Daisy Goodwin, starring Reid, Caroline Quentin, James Dreyfus, James Wilby, and Grainne Dromgoole. Go see it if you've got any interest in the Queen's style and fashion and history, and just that relationship that she had with her dresser, milliner and designer. Yeah. I'm gonna go. I was hoping to edit a video today. We'll see if that actually does happen. But we're at my niece's school fair tonight, so that's going to be fun. We've been told, because they've got like their houses, and so we're only allowed to buy from their stall. I don't know what their stall sells yet, so I'm just making sure I've got cash on me. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you're not already, and I will see you next time with another video. I love you all. Stay safe. Bye.